I'm the host of SaaS Buyers Club, which is what you're watching right now, where I interview SaaS founders, service providers, VCs, private equity, anyone who is in the SaaS space, and with a mission of providing value to SaaS founders so that they can increase the exit value of their businesses. Because I believe anyone who comes on this show and can provide some value to the SaaS founders that are out there will help them increase the value of their businesses so that they can get better exits. With that being said, I'm pleased to introduce Mike Blumenthal, who is the founder of SaaS Lead Flow. And SaaS Lead Flow's proposition is that they'll book your B2B startup 5 to 10 qualified demos every single month using multi-channel outbound. So, Mike, thanks for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Omeed. Super stoked for this conversation and to share some wisdom of the last 8 years of building tech companies and working with founders in all different industries. Really looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. So what do you want SaaS founders to get from the episode today?
Yeah, the one key takeaway is that I would say the mechanics of selling your product service to the market are very, very simple and they're repeatable, but they're not novel. So, I would say the one takeaway would be you have to get in the trenches and really sell your product and service as a founder better than anybody else can before you can expect that magic bullet or get that big exit check. It's really comes down to like founder-led sales and doing the 101 stuff the right way.
Cool. Let's get into that. So where should SaaS founders start?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in 2024, 2025, it's all about your personal brand and how you're branding yourself, putting yourself out there. I know we're both in several content groups together where you need to have a really clear value proposition to the market of what you can help with. So you're attracting your ideal customer profile. I think that's number one. Number two, I would say, is having a real outbound motion. On top of that, it will accelerate your growth tremendously. What I mean by outbound motion is you're reaching out to people for networking. You are sending DMs on LinkedIn to have conversations or add value. You're cold emailing people. So I think those are really the two foundational pieces of that. And I even made a market research report this year. You need a personal brand and you need an outbound motion. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle to sell any sort of B2B product or service.
Okay, so the two primary things that SaaS founders need to know is build a personal brand and get some outbound motion.
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
So what does SaaS Lead Flow do?
Yeah, so we come in and do a done-for-you lead generation service. So instead of having to hire a sales development representative, a business development rep, train them, oversee them, set up all their systems, we come in and we already know how to do it and we set it up for you. Done-for-you service. And what's going to happen is we're going to reach out to your ideal customer profile. We're going to generate leads and book you meetings so you can do what you do best, and that's sell your product and service.
And so do you help them on the personal brand side, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we'll help you optimize your profile. Usually we'll show up and this LinkedIn profile hasn't been touched in years. So yeah, we'll absolutely help you optimize your personal brand. We won't do the content writing or the appointments, any of the ghostwriting. But we do have a lot of different features we can throw in, which will help your distribution and get you in front of more audiences.
All right. What are some of those features?
Yeah. So, I mean, what most people don't realize about social media is the giant game. The best way to grow is to get engagement and to get impressions. So we have various ways that we can get you in front of new audiences, depending on who your target is, by getting you into engagement groups. There's even software that can automate it now. And that's where we even met, right, Omeed?
That's right. Yeah, I'm here for the sauce, Mike. So I'm gonna uncover the sauce, man.
Okay, let's uncover it, baby. It's so early that I think it's good to be promoting some of this stuff. A lot of people see these really famous SaaS founders like Adam Robinson, and every post he has is like magic. It's got all these impressions and all these comments like, "Wow, he's really good." It's like, no, he just actually has an engagement pod that people are in, and that's the type of secrets that most people don't know, but we can uncover them here. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I mean, that actually was like super disappointing for me to find out. I mean, it makes sense. So yeah, anyone who's listening out there, most of the influencers that you see that get like thousands of likes on their posts are using something called engagement pods, where this engagement pod is actual real people. It could be like a community or a network of people who come together and they'll put a group together, and what they'll do is anytime they post on social media, because the algorithm rewards immediate engagement, what they'll do is they'll take the link for that piece of content and they'll go drop it in their engagement group, which is usually on Telegram or WhatsApp or something like that. This engagement group knows that when a link gets dropped into that engagement group, everyone in that engagement group goes and engages with that piece of content so that they can drive the algorithm to boost that piece of content. It was actually very disappointing for me because I was like, yeah, I wanted to believe that, if you make it, you made it because you're like recognized for, one thing or another, as opposed to, which there is an aspect to it that it is that. Like if your content isn't good, engagement group isn't going to help that much. Your content has to actually be good. But yeah, I thought it was just like, you post on there and it's just so good that it gets like thousands of likes, but that's not the case.
Social media doesn't work that way, which is, I'm not surprised that there's not altruism involved. And it's pretty much every social media platform has the same sort of engagement farming fundamentals that you can pick up on if you look under the hood a little bit. Like the same 10 influencers are commenting on each other's stuff and XYZ. So yeah, no surprise to me, but go ahead.
I'm just an idealist, I guess, like when the curtain drops and I see, Oz behind the curtain, I'm like, oh man, I want to dig into this. Okay, so the two aspects are build a personal brand and outbound engine are super important for SaaS founders in 2024 and 2025. And you'll come in, you'll help them optimize their personal brand portfolio. So you primarily work on LinkedIn, is that right? Or is it any platform?
I've tested them all. It's a great question. I've tested them all. I've tested X and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook. For a B2B service provider like myself, LinkedIn's gold. X is probably second. And then it really niches out from there depending on where your target market hangs out. But yeah, primarily LinkedIn.
Okay. And so you'll go in, you'll optimize their profile. You'll, guide them like, here's what your bio should say. Here's what your experience should say. Here's what your featured post should say. You should definitely have like your Calendly booking link in your featured posts, for example, that sort of thing. Optimize the profile. Is there anything else that people should know in that respect?
I would also say just making sure that there's some sort of social proof of what you're doing. And it's very clear. I like to say we help X target market solve Y problem through Z mechanism should be like blatantly clear. My headline up until this week was we help founders in 1 to 2 million in revenue generate more leads through outbound, multi-channel outbound, right? Like, so it says exactly what you do. So when someone shows up to your profile, they don't have to go investigate because people are lazy. It should just be right in their face.
Agree. 100%. Okay, cool. So make sure that what you do is your value proposition is right in people's face. And then on the outbound engine, what should people know about building an outbound engine?
The first thing is the setup is critical and it changes every week, it seems like. So you have to make sure that you set everything up the right way. Otherwise, you won't get in front of people. The second thing is your lead lists are critical, who you're targeting. So understanding your ideal customer profile, verifying that they're actually valid emails or that they're in your target market. And then the third is the copywriting needs to be quick and punchy. So setup / deliverability is key. List building needs a real expertise and understanding what you're doing. And then 3, the copywriting needs to be, would I reply to that?
Okay. So on the setup piece, like how can SaaS founders make sure that the setup is right?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to set up cold email or the LinkedIn outreach tools to use. So just if you don't want to pay someone, go get your YouTube MBA. And I would say, make sure that you warm things up properly. You don't just start sending stuff from day one. Those are the key. If you don't go do anything else, I would say listen to those 2 pieces of advice. Don't send from day one and make sure to warm things up. But there's so many good people out there like Nick Abraham, Eric Nowalski, who just have incredible case studies of how you set up cold email and do all that. So I would go look up those guys.
Let's talk copywriting. It's so interesting
Sure.
because you kind of do like this whole world that I feel like there's a lot of people that do the individual pieces, right? So like a SaaS founder could go hire a copywriter, or a SaaS founder could go hire a list builder, or a SaaS founder could go hire a cold outbound email service, for example, that will warm up domains or whatever. But it kind of sounds like you're a one-stop shop where SaaS founders can come to you and you do, the entire process. You build the list, you warm the, the accounts, and you make sure that the copy says what it needs to, and so that they can get those responses. So on the copy piece, what are some things that SaaS founders need to know there?
Sure. So I'm a product marketer by trade, meaning I learned how to explain value propositions, features, benefits, in a way that speaks directly to your buyer persona. And so when you are thinking about writing copy, you should always start with empathy of what they care about. And I've even built a GPT that, based on the product or service, will and who you're targeting, will list out a list of challenges or problems that they're likely to encounter and the solutions that you can provide to them. So it's really about, one, can you speak their language and understand their problems? So empathy. And two, can you elicit interest enough where they would believe that A, it'll work for them, B, someone else has tried it, social proof, or C, that the risk of at least talking to you is worth it for them. I mean, that's really the key. And I try not to have like more than 3 or 4 line emails. It's literally as simple as, hey, we recently helped another company like yours get this solution. Would you be interested in a similar result? Like really punchy copy that just gets them to reply. The caveat there is everybody today is asking for time. It's like, hey, could I get 30 minutes from you so I can explain to you how this works? And people don't have time. It's their most scarce resource. So how can you differentiate that? What we do is we do lead magnets, we do Loom videos, we send out all sorts of value add activities to them. And then they kind of self-qualify themselves too, if they're interested, and you just have to continue to follow up to see if it would be worth booking them into an actual demo or appointment.
I feel like we have all the pieces now. Are there any pieces to the puzzle that are missing for the most part that you'd like to add in?
I think if we're just talking about appointment setting or lead generation, the last part is like that pre-call flow, because just because someone has agreed to show up doesn't mean they will. And so making sure that whatever software you're using, whether it be Calendly, I use TidyCal, if it needs to have some sort, it can't just be like, hey, we're scheduled to meet in 15 minutes, but including some sort of case study or proof of who you are and what you've done leading up to the meeting, and making sure to really confirm those appointments, because we have seen a huge uptick in people booking time and then just disappearing in 2024. So making sure that you have a follow-up plan, and you don't just, if they don't show up, that does not mean like move on. It just means that they got busy, something happened, and they should go back into your funnel. I'd say that's the one piece that's missing so far.
Got it. So follow-up is key.
The fortune is in the follow-ups, man.
The fortune is in the follow-ups. Yes. Walk us through a story, case study story of maybe like a SaaS founder that you helped, where they were when they came to you, what it looked like for you to work with them, the results that you got, what you did to get those results, that sort of thing. I'd love to, hear an actual application of, your services to the problem.
Yeah, for sure. So one of my favorite is a company called Ideal Trades. So they built a very successful SaaS company, multi-million ARR business off of 2 channels, trade shows and cold calling. And I firmly believe those are fantastic channels. We use those in all my businesses. And they hadn't really implemented a good cold email marketing system. They had done marketing emails, so they'd send out of HubSpot or MailChimp to 10,000 people. You've seen these emails before where it's like, here's all the bullets of what we can do for you. Register now, right? And they weren't getting any results. So we set up this system for them, and we emailed 8,000 people in their target market. We had 150 qualified leads out of it. And then they actually sold 47 annual plans out of the program in about 2 months. And so just by, and you can see like you have to email 8,000 people to get 150 people that are qualified for your service to close, a third of them, which was incredible. So it's a volume game. But yeah, we end up working together for over a year and even launched to new verticals using the same motion. So it was a really fun project. And I love those guys over at Ideal Trades. They're great.
Cool. Love that. So what would you say most founders, when they come to you, it sounds like they have one or two channels that might be working. What does that look like? Is it usually trade shows and cold calling? Is it all over the place? Like, what is the status of most of the SaaS founders that come to you? What are they usually doing?
Yeah. So one, they're usually trying to run ads, which are getting increasingly expensive. This year, I have talked to probably a dozen founders who chose to do ads as their main channel. One of them spent $60,000 because they were VC backed and they needed their growth engine to be turned on immediately. There was zero ROI from 60 grand in ad spend. I have a whole laundry list of stories like that. Then the other side is they'll be doing some sort of emailing, calling, business development at a very low volume unintentionally. Meaning, if you're a founder, you got a bunch of stuff to worry about. You got to do product, customer support, probably fundraising, all these different things and then sales, right? But like usually they don't like to do sales, so it gets pushed to the side. That's why having a company like SaaS Lead Flow come in, we're experts at that domain. We know how to do sales and marketing, and we'll do it scalably, and we'll do it at an affordable price versus a full-time headcount. And that's where I think most founders are struggling is they're either doing hey, let's just run ads and burn money, or two, we'll half-ass an outbound motion and you get half-ass results.
So what I hear is they are half-assing on ads and they're half-assing on sales.
Yep.
And so they're getting half results on both of those things that they work on. And you essentially help them create this outbound cold engine pretty much. And when you say multi-channel, what does multi-channel mean?
Yeah. So it's not just a single channel would be email, a single channel would be cold calling, a single channel would be LinkedIn outreach. So I say multi-channel because it takes multi-touch to convince someone to get, on the phone with you. So that's what multi-channel means.
Got it. And how do you determine which channels they should be utilizing? Because there's so many of them.
So as a marketer, I love it depends. But it depends on who your target market is, because I like to say you should go hang out where your ideal customer hangs out. And so, if it's Airbnb hosts, Facebook groups would be fantastic. But I don't know about LinkedIn as a channel for Airbnb host. On the contrary, if you're looking for a director of sales, it's going to be on LinkedIn. It's not going to be on Instagram. So that's how we choose. And I've really, like I mentioned at the beginning, I've tested them all. And earlier this year, we had a legal tech SaaS where the contract literally was to test every channel possible for the first 3 months. That was their goal. So we did LinkedIn, we did Twitter, we did Facebook groups. I don't think we tried Instagram with it, and then we were ramming cold email. And, what came out on top was LinkedIn, calling, and email, even for them. Maybe not unsurprising, but that's really the way to go is I stick with those three. And most people are afraid to pick up the phone and call. You'd be surprised how great results you can get in 2024 and 2025 with just calling.
Yeah, I feel like the channel that most of the market ignores is like the one people should always be looking for, that thing that kind of is falling by the wayside. For example, I feel like cable TV ads is one that no one really has been thinking about, because no one really watches cable TV like that anymore. But there's a whole market. So if you're in a space where your market watches cable TV, then that's fantastic. It's an incredibly overlooked form of advertising to reach your target market, or radio, for example. And so to dive into that space where so many people are overlooking, it's a flex. It's a hack. So picking up the phone and calling people in this time where everybody wants to automate or make it easy, for example, is a way to get ahead of your competitors. What are some
Yep.
other things you've noticed in 2024 in terms of trends that have worked that maybe in the past haven't been the same?
Yeah. I mean, cold calling is definitely the one channel that stood out this year. Once we dialed it in, you can book so many extra appointments every week because, like you said, everyone's automating and optimizing. I wanted just to reiterate that. I know we just said that, but it shouldn't go unsaid. If you can dial, I don't know, we will have one person doing 50, 60 calls a day. And that's low. I talked to an SDR last week at Seamless AI. He does 1,000 dials a day, has 100 conversations, and he books. I think he said his best month was over 100 calls, just from one guy dialing the phone. So that was really cool to hear. It's as far as like new thing in 2024 was just how much AI can move the needle on appointment setting, or I see all these AI agents coming to life. I'm really keen to see how that comes around in 25.
Any other predictions for 2025?
Email's going to get harder and harder.
Cold emails aren't going to
Deliverability.
work in 25.
I wouldn't say they're not going to work. I wouldn't bet the house on that. It's just going to get harder and harder because any 22-year-old with a computer can send them, but you have to stand out. So what are you going to do to stand out? And how, I have a screenshot in my head. I sent an email to my list the other week, and I just said, hey, we recently helped a company do this. Can I show you a video of how it works? And a chief revenue officer at a several $1 million SaaS goes, I get this email every single week. They're asking for my time. You did a fantastic job of showing proof and then giving me what you're going to do for me. And this is very timely. And so that's an example of differentiating yourself. Hey, can we talk about this 30 minutes this week? He's like, no, I got stuff to do. But I'll watch your video, and then when I'm ready to have this conversation in 3 months, we'll have you on the queue.
So what are you advising your companies going into 2025?
Yeah, one, clean list 3 times before you send anything. That's the biggest thing. We start triple verifying everything because there's so much turnover and people changing that emails are bouncing left and right. That's the first thing. The second thing is picking up the phones more. And then the third thing is how can we create more content that gets us in front of our audience that's like lower leverage. So not like PR or TV advertisements, but like personal brand content, blog posts, being really top of mind when people are looking for a solution. So it's kind of contrary for an outbound guy, but I just see so much value in it. And even GPT starting to recommend solutions. I found someone, I can't recall exactly what the solution was, but you type in like, hey, how would you recommend doing this? And ChatGPT is like, oh, you should check out this company. Like, whoa, that's going to be huge if you can get in OpenAI's recommendation engine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean the search engine integration, is making it so that the GPT will specifically name your company potentially if you somehow get into the GPT algorithm.
Exactly. I mean, that's really that. I don't know how you do it yet, but I know a lot of people were building the GPT apps and so on and so forth. So anyway.
Okay, cool. So we got our 2025 prediction. And it sounds like you're bullish on the personal brand and I would imagine that you're bullish on the personal brand because as you do outbound, the people that are interested in you are going to look you up. They're going to do their own research on you. And if they go to your page and you have all this content that speaks to them, they're going to be much more likely to book that call with you because time is scarce. And if you can get someone on a call, you're much more likely to be able to sell to them because they're not going to get on a call with you if they're not interested. So the personal brand really helps warm the leads up. And that's why you are such a supporter of the personal brand. Would you say that's accurate?
You nailed it, dude. You just nailed the customer journey, especially for bigger companies. I had a Fortune 500. We're in month 14 of a sales cycle right now. And that's just how it goes at these big companies. And I had a Fortune 100 book with me this year because they saw me on LinkedIn, just talking about their problem that they're experiencing. So yes, you nailed the customer journey. Even if you reach out to them cold, they're going to look you up. They're going to see what you're talking about, see if it resonates. And if it does, then it's a fit. But if you're just have a profile or you're unoptimized, they don't know what you do, they'll move on and go to the next thing.
What do you think SaaS founders, I mean, okay, so we've talked about how SaaS founders, some of the things that they get wrong are they don't build a personal brand, or, they haven't touched their LinkedIn in ages, and they don't have like an outbound growth strategy. They're focusing on, maybe one or two channels of business that work really, really well for them. Why aren't they able to scale those channels of business, though? I guess you can only go to so many trade shows, for example. So they hire you, you come in, you implement this multi-channel outbound strategy that essentially is, scalable infinitely, in that, it's how many lists can they build, how many emails can they send, and then your team handles all the, appointment setting, sales calls, so on and so forth. But like, what are some other things that SaaS founders maybe have the wrong mindset about?
Yeah. So the one in particular that's top of mind, and you even put this in your questionnaire for SaaS Buyers Club, like, what's the one thing you want people to know? Churn. So with the SaaS, it's totally different than most other models, because you have a whole motion to keep them as a customer too. That's critical, customer success and support. And a lot of the clients that I work with, I see we get them in the door, they close clients, and then churn becomes a problem. And then it all of a sudden is all hands on deck at how do we keep these clients that we spend all this money to acquire? And it's this constant balancing act of more customers, existing customers. I've spoken several times, Omeed, at my alma mater, of the most impactful thing that my entrepreneurship professor showed me. And it was a graph where two companies, exactly the same, sell the same service for the same price. And one of them has way higher revenue and way higher margin. And the answer is why? It's because they retain customers over time. And so I'm sure as a M&A attorney, the valuation a company is tremendously higher, exponentially higher, when churn is low and they keep their customers over time. Is that a fair assumption?
I would say that's a fair assumption. Who knew keeping customers makes more money?
Yeah. So you asked, what's the one thing that I think they're not getting right? It's churn and customer success.
What would you say the mindset often there is? Oh, let's just get more customers. Like, keeping customers isn't that important to them? Or what would you say the mindset is there?
I work with a lot of product focused founders. So they want to build more product features. Let's make the product better. But what they failed to see is that the customers that are using it right now aren't adopting it as it is. So there's a product adoption, product usage problem that you're trying to band-aid by building more. When in reality, what you need to do is to, similar that you did with the sales process, understand what their needs are and see how you can solve them today and tomorrow. And that's how you build your product roadmap.
Got it. Any other mindsets that you see that SaaS founders often have?
I think in general, they don't want to get on the phone and sell, or they think that they can delegate sales way before they can. Like, you need to be the best salesperson in your company for several years. And only after you found something that's scalable, product market fit, the all running product market fit, that's when you can start to delegate sales. But it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be glorious, but you are going to be the best salesman or saleswoman of your business, period. Otherwise it won't grow. So would you disagree or agree with that? I'm curious from your experience.
I've actually heard that the last thing that should be delegated when in a startup is sales. And I've heard that that's the case because that's your connection to your customers. Like, the companies that we've seen fall off or fail or not perform as well as they can, it's because there's a loss of connection to the customer and a loss of understanding of the customer. And the easiest way to maintain understanding of the customer is to maintain that connection. Where else is the founder going to get connection to the customer other than literally jumping on sales calls and being face to face with the customer and being able to like speak with them and ask them questions? So when I talk to founders, I'm always advising them that they should constantly be in the sales process. Sales should be the last thing that they delegate. But I do see that, SaaS founders oftentimes, unless they're like a sales guy or it's, two founders, one is a product guy, the other is a sales guy. Oftentimes, SaaS founders don't necessarily love sales. They want to be building product. They don't really want to be on the phone with customers. But I would 100% agree with you on the point that sales is the lifeblood of the company and super important for the founder to stay in and connected to.
Mm-hmm. What else would you say? You asked me about mindset. I'm curious from what you see, especially on an M&A standpoint, what other mindset lack is there out there today?
Yeah, I love it. The podcast's host tables are turning. I just want to clarify. So I am an M&A lawyer, but I also do VC fundraisers. I help SaaS founders start their company. So we do incorporations, pretty much anything that has to do with contracts. M&A is just it's a process and it's a series of contracts. So I say anything that has to do with contracts is really what we help with. So we definitely help. We do a lot of M&A deals right now. We have about 6 deals ongoing on hand, active right now.
Nice. Nice.
But outside of that, we've done MSAs, we'll do employee stock option plans, we'll do founders agreements. Anything that has a contract that's a part of it is pretty much what we help with, minus like government contracts. That's like a very specific area of contracts that are called FARs, and we don't really work with those, but we have an outside person that we can bring in if someone needs help with government contracts. But back to the mindset question. I think one of the primary things that I see is it's really hard for SaaS founders to let go of this thing that they've built, especially if it's performing well, if it's, producing profit and generating their livelihood. They've poured a lot of energy and time and care into building this company over time. And the market values companies not based on how much time you've put in or how much you love your business or how, cool your product is or how well your product performs or anything like that. It's pretty much a strict formulaic calculation of what is the buyer is going to be thinking about. What is my return on investment in buying this company going to be? Thinking about the value of your company in any other terms other than that is likely going to be disappointing for SaaS founders. So the mindset issue that I see with so many SaaS founders that are going out to sell their companies is obviously they want to maximize, the dollar value that they get for the exit. That's the whole idea of this podcast. The whole idea is let's help you maximize the dollar value of your exit. But understandably, a lot of SaaS founders overvalue the values of their company, and that actually is quite hurtful to the M&A process. Because if a buyer approaches you and is interested in buying your company and they have a certain value in mind, and then you have some exponentially greater value in mind that isn't based in some market reality, then there's going to be a mismatch there. And it could actually potentially harm the M&A process. And I see this often a lot, for example, where a seller may be approached by one single buyer, and that buyer may be the best buyer for them, for example. And the buyer will make an offer to purchase the company. And I actually always tell SaaS founders when they come to me early in the process, like, don't just rely on that one buyer, because they often have, as I mentioned, some value in mind around what they think their company is valued at. So I'm like, go run a process, go hire a banker, go hire a broker, take your business to market and see what the market will actually pay for your business so that you can get a sense. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, when they're approached by a buyer, that offer might be the best offer that they're going to get for the value of their company. And when they take the business to market, they'll realize what the actual value of their business is. And it usually isn't what they originally were hoping that their business was valued at. So the mindset issue is don't overvalue your business. Understand what makes the value of your business and what the value to the business is to the buyer ultimately as well. And stay connected to the market. Very similar to what we talked about, in the same way that founders need to stay connected to the market in terms of being connected to their customers. The same way, potential acquirers are also customers of sorts that they need to stay connected to understand what is the market willing to pay for this business. And I think this could also, I don't know if this is something that you help with, Mike, but they often say that a lot of SaaS founders undercharge for their services as well. A lot of SaaS founders don't know that they could actually, for example, increase prices, and that's one way to increase revenue for their business.
Yep.
So in that same way, staying connected to the market, knowing what the market is willing to pay, and positioning yourself accordingly based on that information, incredibly important.
Yeah, totally true. And I think that the SaaS model has been devalued from a monthly subscription perspective for some time, because people who maybe have a B2C mindset, there's no B2C product out there today. I won't say no, but there are very few that are more than $20 a month. I mean, from Amazon Prime to Netflix. But when it comes to adding enterprise value, my buddy was just in town this week that sold a $1.2 million a year contract to a big insurance company, right? Annual recurring revenue. And I think a lot of times early stage founders will be like, yeah, I'll just charge $100 a month. That's a $1,200 annual contract value. To make $1 million business, you need a lot of those.
Curious, what makes SaaS Lead Flow different from other lead generation companies?
Great question. Yeah. So there's two differentiators. One, I am a founder at heart, built several tech companies with others, for others, have a piece of some right now. So I know what it's like to be in your shoes. And that's the first thing. It's not just a person running an agency who's trying to scale. You call yourself a boutique agency. I'd say the same thing. But moreover, what we build for you, that done for you service, at the end of the contract, it's all yours. I can transfer it over to you, and you can hire someone. You can run it yourself if you want to. So it's not a service that you turn off and disappears. It's a service and an asset that I build for you and your company.
When you build these systems for people, what does your team look like? Is it, you have a copywriter on staff, you have a bunch of people making calls? What do people actually get as part of the service?
Yeah, great question. So we have a customer success manager who oversees all my client activity, making sure that all the activities, all the tasks that need to happen. Because when I onboard you, I press a button and there's 30 things we need to do. So all that gets delegated out, and we build a team underneath you. I call it scaling lead generation teams. So we have a copywriter, we have an inbox manager, we have cold callers that we have ready to go and trained up. And so you get all of that done for you. And usually I have 3 to 5 people on any given account, based on their skill set and their ability to what they can do. And that way we can really, make sure you're getting the most out of your service.
All right. So you said that when people hire you, a button gets pressed and there's 30 things that they have to do. What are give us an idea of what happens when the button gets pressed.
Yeah. So I built this amazing Notion operating system. And so I press onboard client, and all of a sudden we have cold email setup that needs to happen. We have campaign creation and copywriting that needs to happen. We have list building that needs to happen. So each one of those projects has subtasks underneath them, and all of those immediately get scheduled out. And usually I say basically by the 3rd or 4th week after you've paid, we're sending and we're going. So all that's happening behind the scenes All I need from a client usually is who they want to target or who their ideal customer profile is. And then I have them spot check our list to make sure it's the industries they want, and then they approve the copy.
Got it. What are some of the challenges that you've seen SaaS founders who hire your service? What are like some roadblocks once they've hired you that they should be aware of in the process of working with you?
Yeah, I mean, the first one's expectations on results. Every market's different, every target market's different. So I always try to set expectations. I mean, you called on the beginning. I mean, we'll say 5 to 10 qualified meetings. I'll guarantee how many people we'll reach out to, but you can never force somebody to show up on a call. That's just not possible. You can't. I mean, you can incentivize them, but so that's the first thing. The second thing is the language, the copywriting. Some people are really, really particular about how they want their product to be spoken about, which we just go back and forth and have tight feedback loops. I've learned to let my clients in really early on the copywriting process, like really early, very rough drafts, because I'd rather just have you tell me from the beginning, like, this is off, this is what I want to say, than spend 2 or 3 weeks like really refining something and showing it to you and be like, no, this is terrible. It's like, well, I'll just show you draft 1. Give me the most candid feedback you can, and we just get tighter feedback loops.
Mm. Does your team actually handle the sales call as well? So once the qualified meeting is booked, the SDR shows up and actually sells the product as well?
So I've done that as an upsell. I haven't had anyone on my team jump in there and do that yet. I'm sure we could in the future, and I've had people ask if we can do it. But usually if you want some like an actual sales professional, it's going to be me showing up to the calls. I haven't delegated that yet.
Got it. Interesting. Very cool. Man, I think I want to use your service, to be honest, for the law firm. That's like what I'm thinking right now.
We definitely have a bunch of SaaS lists, and I can already tell some good copy that would come out of it. We recently helped XYZ firm, raise money or sell, whatever it is. Is this something that's on your roadmap?
Yeah. And okay, like let's walk through like an exercise where, let's say you were to help my firm implement this, just so SaaS founders could get a feel. What does it actually like look like for us to work together? What would it look like? Let's like run through like a little hypothetical role play for the last few minutes here.
Yeah, sure. So tell me, Omeed, who is your ideal customer? Who signs the contract to work with your firm?
Yeah, it's oftentimes SaaS founders who, have hit 1 million ARR.
Okay.
And they are either looking. So I have a few buckets where I help SaaS founders. The first one is hit 1 million ARR. They're looking to maybe go out and raise, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, or potentially more. So they're either looking to raise seed or Series A. And that's one bucket of founders that we help. Another bucket of SaaS founders that we help is more mature SaaS founders. Again, usually more than 1 million ARR, usually around 1 million EBITDA. They're taking home 1 million profit, 1 to 2 million profit, and they're ready to sell their business. Maybe they've been approached by, for example, private equity or something like that, or a strategic buyer. And they are in the process of negotiating through their LOI. So I would say those are probably the two biggest use cases that end up hiring my law firm.
Okay, so let's pick one of the offers. That'll be easier. So let's say they want to raise, and I've run this offer before pretty successfully, actually. So basically what we would do is go build a lead list of companies that are 1 million ARR to, let's say, 20 million ARR, and just put a subject line as simple as funding ? And then cold email them with, hey, we recently helped another company put together their deck and contracts. They're ready to raise money. Is raising something that's on your 2025 bingo card ?
It seems so simple, man.
It's not rocket science. These founders come to me all the time. They're like, what's the silver bullet, man? I got this new product I'm launching in the market. I'm like, mechanics are always the same. Calling, emailing, social media. That's it. Just gotta do it right.
All right, let's do it.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Mike, thanks so much for joining me on the show, man. I've learned a lot. Oh, I do have one more question. What are like the typical response rates that SaaS founders should, what are the metrics that SaaS founders should know? Like, what are the response rates on cold emails, responses to LinkedIn DMs? If there are founders out there that are doing this stuff themselves, what should they know about like open and response rates?
Sure. Yeah. So when it comes to email, if you have anywhere from like a 2 to 4%, let's say, reply rate, that's pretty good. The positive reply rate is going to be about 20% of what. So if you have, for sake of round numbers, you have 5% reply rate, 1% should be positive replies.
Got it.
That's generally how I think about it for that. For LinkedIn, generally for every, it's a little bit higher. I'd say you're probably between 5 to 10% reply rate, and positive reply rate, once again, remains around 20%.
Got it. All right. So for all the SaaS founders out there, thank you. Yeah. I'm always like seeing SaaS founders be like, yeah, I'm sending cold emails. My open rate is XYZ%. Is that good? Is that market? Like, so on and so forth. So I wanted to make sure and get that information out there. But yeah, Matt. Yeah, Mike. Really appreciate you joining me on the show today. And I've got learned so much. Next episode, Mike's gonna implement his system, and we'll like show you under the hood of what it looks like. I think that could be cool, actually.
Yeah. I've run a funding offer before, and we had very good results. So yeah, it's not too. It's when you're offering that type of value, millions of dollars in value, people reply to your emails.
Yes. Who wants money? Raise your hand.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This is a great conversation, great question asker, and looking forward to staying connected, man.
Likewise. And for all the people out there, you'll be able to reach Mike. His contact information and his LinkedIn, everything will be in the show notes below. Everyone out there, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Let us know who you would like to see on the show. If you have any questions for Mike, make sure you reach out to him and join us next week. Thanks, everyone.